I graduated from the London School of Economics and Political Science, otherwise known as LSE. The goal of a lot of college students is to work really hard to either get a good job or to get into a top university, to then get an even better job. Although this can be true, it's also the only part that is usually emphasized on. But what we don't really talk about often is what happens after you get accepted to the schools and officially enroll. I am happy to hold a master's degree in economics from the London School of Economics. It did provide me with a set of privileges a few years after my graduation, and it definitely made my parents proud. But the truth is, I cried every single day when I was studying. Of course, there were issues at the systemic and institutional levels, but those are not the ones that I will address today, because we cannot control them. Instead, as part of the things that we can control are our own expectations. And mine were unrealistic from the moment I stepped on campus. So today, as a video that I wish I could have watched before studying here, here's 7 things I wish I knew before studying at the LSE. The first thing I wish I knew before studying at the LSE is that you need to create emotional space. It's really part of the LSE culture to try to build your CV as early as possible, and that's also one factor on which they base the recruitment of their students. And I do think it is smart to try to leverage as much as possible the platform whilst you're studying here. I was working at UNICEF the entire time during my 2nd year. I was working full-time in a fintech the entire time during my 3rd year, and I actually had to quit that internship a month earlier to start my next internship in London during the summer, which ran through the first term of my studies here at LSE. Right then, it seemed like I was making the right choice since I was accumulating experience on my CV very fast. I had plenty of opportunities that I didn't want to say no to, and honestly, it was really nice to be financially independent. The problem was that I never stopped. I never said no to any opportunities, and I was burnt out before the term even started. Ideally, the best is to take 2 to 3 weeks off before the start of term, and if that conflicts with your internship or something else you have to do, at least try to intentionally create emotional space before term starts. Things like making time to enjoy evenings, not doing a bunch of extra hours, and meditate on your next chapter, which is to study at the LSE. Do your summer readings, or just set your vision and your intentions straight for the coming year. The second thing I wish I knew before studying at the LSE is to remember that the goal is finding yourself, not becoming someone you're not. Elite schools like LSE have a way of feeding false realities through fostering pride and ambition. I remember on the first day at the opening ceremony, they fed us this memorable speech with all their statistics about how every 6 of us would become a CEO, every 15 of us would become a barrister, and every whatever of us would become a president of a country. At the time, it felt like such a privilege to be part of this crowd that I didn't even ask myself if that was something that I even wanted to do. These types of speeches are designed to create the illusion of being part of an exclusive community in which it's a real privilege to belong to, and therefore way harder to stand out from. The thing is, when you're in your 20s, you're most likely still trying to figure out who you are, what you like, what you're good at, and who you want to become. And these types of discourse being pushed on you can sometimes really heavily influence you and even make you forget who you really are and what you really want to pursue. Like, do you really want to work a 9 to 5 every day, working 100 hours a week, commuting every single day in a suit, and become an analyst or a consultant in a multinational corporation? Ask yourself that. That might be a good fit for some people, but honestly, definitely not all the people that I met at the LSE Consulting Society. So my advice is this: don't ever lose sight that the goal at university is to try to find yourself. And what I think is even the bigger task is to not become somebody you're not. That can take all sorts of shapes, like requesting a program transfer at the beginning of the term if you feel like you're more interested in another subject, try out a bunch of different societies to see who you vibe with, do sports, and take time for yourself. The third thing I wish I knew before studying at the LSE is to approach grades and academics in your own terms. 3 things about that. The first one is that not everyone needs to graduate with the best grade. For a lot of people, especially master's students, this is the year they'll be joining the workforce. So maybe a 2-1 is sufficient and clears out a little bit more time to do things like networking and internships and applications. So I suggest you start with an idea of the grade that you want to aim for, then spend the first month at the beginning of the term to try to figure out how much work you need to be putting in to achieve those grades. Second thing is, LSE is known for its cutthroat competitive culture. So a lot of students will be pretending that they're breezing through the readings and the assignments, but chances are they're asking exactly the same questions that you're asking yourself. So skip all that, try to find a group of friends with whom to work with. Don't be like me and do that only at the end of the year, and it'll make the experience so much better. And if you can, avoid comparing grades. It's never good. And 3, LSE operates with a formative and summative assessment system. The formative is the first assignment. It is graded, but the grade does not count towards your final transcript. And the summative assessment is similar to the final, and the grade does count towards your final transcript. The thing is, summative assessments grades can happen to be worse, not better, than your formative assessment grades, even if you have practiced once, and the fact that you usually work a little bit harder when you know that the grade is counting towards your degree. If that happens, do not let that bring you down. Ask your professor what you did better and worse between the 2 assignments in order to fully understand what the institution is looking for in terms of academics. And either way, just ignore the grade gap, just move on and start with a fresh mind on the next assignment. The 4th thing I wish I knew before studying at the LSE is to always put your mental and physical health first. 3 things about that too. First thing, always be aware of your imposter syndrome and to actively work on it. Imposter syndrome is basically believing that you're not bright enough to be where you are, despite all your outstanding academic and extracurricular achievements. And if anyone tells you otherwise, you might as well have fooled them into believing it. Now you may be breezing through this entire year at LSE with sheer confidence, and that's great. Continue that. But in my experience, there is an epidemic of imposter syndrome here at LSE. It's a hard school to get admitted to, and the students that get here are actually aware of the 8% admission rate. And even though they were clearly good enough to get in, once they get here, they look around, hear that speech at the beginning of the year, and they suddenly feel like everybody is smarter than them. If that ever happens to you, the first thing to do is to recognize it. Identify it and set yourself to actively work through it. Start communicating what you feel with trusted family, friends, and people around you, or you can seek to casually speak to a therapist about it. Second thing is, I found out way too late that LSE actually offers free therapy to all students. You just need to sign up at the beginning of the year. I think they tried to advertise it, but I never really saw the ads, nor did I grow up in a family where we really discussed mental health. So when you get here, a lot of people are like 17, 18, I was maybe 20, 21. Yeah, it's not necessarily something that you think about, but yeah, definitely anticipate that because that can make or break your academic year. So I would suggest to try to get on the list as early as possible. Try it, see if it helps you at the beginning of the year, and then you'll be on track and at least have something to fall back upon for the rest of the year. And either way, it's great. And then 3rd thing, always remember to try to eat healthy and to make time to do regular workouts. Both of these are a little bit harder to achieve in central London, but you can keep that consistent by joining sports societies right here directly at the school. There's also a gym right over here that is offered to students, and it's also a great way to start making friends. Which brings me to the 5th thing I wish I knew before studying at the LSE. Select your friendships and invest in those friendships. Like I said earlier, the competitive culture can make it harder to get out there and meet new friends and cultivate those friendships, especially if you're a little bit introverted. But if there's one moment you should be doing this during your 20s, that would be the prime time and space. In these types of schools, you actually get to meet a variety of people who were pre-selected for their intellect, their ambitions, their determination, and their uniqueness. And their friendship is one conversation away. Now, in these types of settings, you get to meet a lot of people every day, and for most of them, you may spend a great afternoon with them and then possibly never see them again for the rest of the year. Your free time is also very limited, so you sort of have to be a bit strategic about friendships. Be quick at selecting the people with whom you vibe the most, the ones that spark interest and admiration, then be even quicker at investing in those people. That means skipping all the people you don't believe will turn into good friendships and make time to develop deeper friendships with the ones that you have chosen to be around. It is a million times more rewarding to be intentionally picking your friends and to nurture these relationships with them than just going with the flow. The 6th thing I wish I knew before studying at the LSE is to try to not get too distracted. Of course, university is a precious moment in your life where you actually get to contemplate life, experiment, and sometimes to get a bit distracted. But things like dealing with LSE's administration, for instance, there's a lot of bureaucracy. It can easily suck your soul out of you. But remember to stay cordial, stay civilized. It'll get done at some point. But also job hunting, internships, succeeding in your academic courses. You gotta submit applications, party, all those things can easily distract you from what is really important during that time. Of course, all those things are what makes university life vibrant and rich and experience of a lifetime, but they're also very time-consuming and very distracting at times. Moderating them helps tremendously in keeping a balance in your time management and to get the most out of each area. Overall, and this is the last thing I wish I knew, anticipation is key. That's what this video is for, but more generally, making time and space for your mind and your emotions to prepare mentally, familiarize yourself with the syllabus, identify activities to do, ask people about their experiences here. What to look out for and what to look forward to is really the key. So when the term actually starts, you're just ready to enjoy and be present. I hope this was relevant. Stay healthy, get smart, and until next time, bye!